Hey guys, I want to talk to you about the Hawthorne study that's in your text. It's just sort of alluded to, but I want to expand on it just a little bit for your sake, for a little bit of understanding. The Hawthorne study experiment began as an entire plant experiment where Elton Mayo and his colleagues at Harvard went to Hawthorne Works plant to examine the productivity in this plant where the task was to make a relay switch. And I think there are about 35 parts in this relay switch. The work was fairly menial. I mean, just a repetitive type task. And they wanted to change the lighting in the plant and see if it had an effect on productivity. Of course, if it did, that would be an easy thing to do. And I think they had plans to assess other things in terms of increasing productivity. What they found was, interestingly, they increased the lighting in the plant and productivity went up. I think their thinking must have been something obvious, like with more light in the room, two things come to my mind. One, it's more stimulating when you have more light in the room. So maybe just that increased stimulation, increased productivity some. Two, with more light in the room, if I'm doing something, detailed, mechanical, if I have more light, I can see it better. There's less eye fatigue and just easier to accomplish my task. So maybe that would increase productivity. But whatever the case is, it did increase productivity over time period one, and then they increased the lighting again, it increased productivity, and they increased lighting again, it increased productivity. And at some point, for some reason, I don't really know the reason, but I imagine they wanted to sort of track and assess, now that they saw that there was an effect, the magnitude of the effect at different levels of lighting. So there's probably diminishing returns. If I turned the lights up in this room, maybe I'd be more productive. And if I turned them up more, I should do it if that works, then maybe it'd be more productive for me. And if at some point, no more light, it will be destructive, in fact, right? It just would have diminishing returns. So I think they went back down in lighting probably to begin to track and monitor what increases in productivity came with what levels of lighting and where those diminishing returns occurred. After all, if it costs more to pump in lighting to a large plant, then you get benefit from it in terms of increased productivity, then you wouldn't want to do it. It costs you more than you benefit. In any case, they lowered the lighting probably to pursue that type of reasoning, and productivity, surprisingly, very surprisingly, went up. So the question really is, what's going on? We went from level 1 to level 2, level 3, level 4 lighting, increasing productivity every time. Now we've gone back to level 3 lighting, and productivity went up again. So this was really the beginning of a new era in management thought, because we had come from scientific management like Frederick Taylor, the father of scientific management, looking at how to build jobs in the most effective way and use workers kind of as machines, constructing algorithms for movement and time and rest and everything. And all of a sudden, we're seeing something outside of that phenomena. We're seeing something human happening. Let me read a little bit to you, because this will probably be the quickest way to deliver this to you. So, although Elton Mayo and his team conducted the Hawthorne Experience over a number of years, it's his work with 6 women workers in a relay assembly room that made his name. Throughout the series of experiments, one of Mayo's team sat with the girls as they worked, noting everything they did, keeping them up to date with the experiment, asking for clarifications, and listening to their views. The experiment began by introducing carefully controlled changes, each of which was continued for a test period of 4 to 12 weeks. The results of these changes were as follows. So what Mayo and his colleagues did is they actually picked 2 of the workers among the hundreds there, and they asked those 2 workers to pick 4 others, and these were their, quote, volunteers. They put them in a separate room at a round table with a hole in the middle where they would place their completed switch units when they produced them. And they worked with them. They asked them, what are the types of things that we could change in our work environment in terms of rest breaks and time that you get done, time you came in, all sorts of things. They worked with these ladies is really the critical component to this. Now here's one, at least, records of the basic changes they made. I've read the study, and it's much more details than this, but so under normal conditions, with a 48-hour week, including Saturdays and no breaks, the girls produced 2,400 relays a week each. They were then put on piecework for 8 weeks, and output went up. 2 5-minute rest pauses, morning and afternoon, were introduced for a period of 5 weeks. Output went up. The rest pauses were lengthened to 10 minutes each, and output went up sharply. 6 5-minute pauses were introduced, and the girls complained that their work rhythm was broken by the frequency of pauses, and output fell slightly. The 2 rest pauses were reinstated. The first with a hot meal supplied by the company free of charge. Output went up. The girls finished at 4:30 instead of 5 o'clock. Output went up. The girls finished at 4. Output remained the same. Finally, all the improvements were taken away, and the girls went back to the same conditions they had had at the beginning of the experiment. Working on Saturday, 48 hours a week, no rest pauses, no piecework, and no free meal. These conditions lasted for a period of 12 weeks. Output was higher than it had ever been recorded before, with the girls averaging 3,000 relays per week each. So from 2,400 each a week to 3,000, and the conditions were identical to the beginning of the experiment. So what does this imply for us? It implies something very important. Scientific management is awesome. I'm a big fan. I think we really lose track of designing jobs in ways that are the most efficient. I think there is not necessarily one best way to do a job, but there are better ways to conduct work, and not as good a ways. We should look at the nature of work, that's for sure. But human beings are doing this work, the work that a manager manages. And human beings want to feel valued, and they want to feel involved, and they want to feel like they're participating, not just in anything, not in something unimportant, but in something important. They want to be involved. They want to make decisions. And all those elements were happening here because these 6 ladies were contributing to something that had to do with this research project. There's something that this synopsis of the Hawthorne experiment left out that I've read before. I'll share with you. There were 6 ladies in this test room, and one day one of them called in sick. And production on that day, with only 5, so they're missing, 15% of their production capacity, one of 6, their production was the same. So the 5 other ladies, because of a sense of social responsibility to the researchers, to the program, and to their colleague who wasn't there, they stepped it up and they filled in. This is the kind of behavior that we want in our workplace. We want people to step up their production when it's most needed. It may be true that they couldn't do that for a sustained period of time. Maybe 5 ladies can't do the work of 6 in the long run, but maybe they can for a day. And they do it because they have a sense of social responsibility too. And that social responsibility was built because of and through relationships with the researchers. The researchers became their managers, and they were better managers. They were not looking at humans just for what they can produce, but as human contributors to the whole process. Hope this is helpful. It has implications for you which are quite simple and obvious, but overlooked so many times by managers. We need to treat people holistically. We need to truly value them in a way that is felt by them. And sometimes that's quite beautifully by simply involving them in the process of doing the work we need them to do, but involving them in it and asking them questions. How can we do this better? You're the person doing it. You're really the expert at making these relays. Tell us what you need. Do you need more break time? Do you need less break time? Do you need a hot meal? What can we do to help you do your work most effectively? And we don't ask that question very often as managers, and we should. Thanks.